The van wasn't meant to be permanent. It was supposed to be a stopgap. A few weeks. Maybe a month. Just long enough to figure things out. But time didn't move the way plans did. Rachel learned that the hard way. She sat in the driver's seat with the engine off, watching her son sleep in the back. Ethan was 7, curled up under a blanket that didn't quite cover his feet, one arm tucked under his head like he was still in a real bed. She waited a moment longer before moving, just to make sure he stayed asleep. Then she leaned her head back against the seat, closed her eyes. The van was quiet. Too quiet. It made everything louder in her head. Bills she couldn't pay. Calls she stopped answering. The moment the landlord stopped pretending there was still time. "You've had enough extensions." That's what he said. And maybe he was right. But being right didn't make it easier. Rachel opened her eyes again, looked at the rearview mirror. Ethan hadn't moved. That mattered more than anything else. She reached back, adjusting the blanket gently over him. "We'll figure it out," she whispered. Not to him. To herself. Morning came slowly. The sun crept through the cracked windshield, lighting up the inside of the van in soft, uneven patches. Ethan stirred. "Mom, I'm here." He sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Are we still here?" Rachel smiled faintly. "For now." He nodded. Kids adjusted faster than they should have to. That was the hardest part. They got used to things that weren't supposed to be normal. Rachel stepped out of the van, stretching her arms, letting the cool air hit her face. The parking lot was mostly empty. She had learned where to park, where not to, how to move without being noticed, how to stay just long enough, but not too long. That morning, she didn't feel like moving right away. Instead, she walked, away from the lot, toward the edge of town, where the buildings thinned out, and the land opened. It wasn't planned. It was just movement. She followed a dirt road she hadn't taken before. The further she walked, the quieter it got, until it felt like the world had stepped back. That's when she saw the sign. It leaned slightly, half buried in weeds. "For sale." Below it, faded, barely readable. "Farmstead." Rachel slowed. Not because she was interested, because it didn't make sense. Who sells something out here? She followed the path. The farmstead came into view slowly. It was worse than she expected. The house, weathered wood, peeling paint, sections of the roof sagging inward. The barn, half collapsed on one side. The land, overgrown, untouched for years. It didn't look abandoned in a dramatic way. It looked left behind. "No one would want this," she said under her breath. But she didn't leave. Instead, she walked closer. The ground crunched beneath her shoes. Dry in some places, soft in others. She stepped onto what used to be the front porch. The wood creaked, but held. That was the first thing she noticed. It still held. She pushed the door. It opened with resistance, then gave way. Inside, dust, silence, stillness. Light filtered through broken sections of the walls and ceiling. The space was empty, not stripped, just untouched. Rachel moved slowly through the house, every step deliberate, testing the floor, watching the structure. It wasn't safe, but it wasn't gone. That mattered. She stopped near one wall. Something about it felt off, not visually, structurally. She pressed her hand against it. Solid, but different, like there was space behind it. She frowned slightly, then stepped back. "One thing at a time," she murmured. She wasn't here for that. Not yet. She stepped back outside. The wind moved softly through the overgrown land. The farmstead stood behind her. Broken, worn, but still standing. Rachel looked at it for a long moment, then turned back toward the road. The number on the sign still worked. The owner arrived the next day. An older man. Quiet. Straightforward. He stepped out of his truck and looked at her, then at the farmstead. "You hear about this?" he asked. Rachel nodded. He glanced back at the house. "You know what it is." "A farmstead. A dead one," he said. He walked her around it, pointing things out. Roof damage. Structural wear. Years of neglect. "Been sitting like this a long time," he said. Rachel listened. Not to what was wrong, but to what was still there. Then she asked, "How much?" He looked at her carefully, not judging, not dismissing, just assessing. "How much you got?" he asked. Rachel hesitated, then answered honestly, $38. There was a pause. He looked back at the farmstead, then at her. Finally, "Give me 4. 4, she repeated. "For dollars," he said. "And it's yours." "Why?" she asked. He shrugged. "No one else wants it. And something tells me," he glanced at her, "you're not looking for perfect." Rachel didn't respond. She reached into her pocket, pulled out $4, handed it to him, and just like that, she owned a farmstead no one wanted. That night, she didn't go back to the parking lot. She brought the van, parked it near the house. Ethan looked out the window. "Is this ours?" he asked. Rachel looked at the broken house, the collapsing barn, the overgrown land, then back at him. "Yeah," she said. "It's ours." He smiled, and for the first time in weeks, Rachel felt something shift. Not relief. Not yet. But possibility. She stepped out of the van. The farmstead stood in front of her. Worn. Silent. But waiting. And somewhere inside those walls, something was hidden. Something no one else had seen. Not yet. The first night on the farmstead didn't feel safe. But it felt like theirs. Rachel lay in the back of the van, staring up at the ceiling while the wind moved softly outside. The land was quiet in a way the parking lot never was. No distant engines. No footsteps. No sudden knocks on the window. Just space. Ethan slept beside her, curled up the same way he always did, one hand resting lightly against her arm like he needed to know she was still there. She didn't move. Not yet. Because this was different. Not better. Not fixed. But different. And different was enough to start. By morning, the reality settled in. The farmstead wasn't just a place to sit. If they were going to stay, she had to make it work. Rachel stepped out of the van and looked at the house again. Not as something broken, but as something unfinished. She didn't look at everything. Just the next problem. That was the rule now. Not everything. Just the next thing. "The roof," she said quietly. Ethan stepped out beside her, squinting up at it. "It looks like it might fall," he said. "Parts of it," she replied. "Not all of it." They walked around the house, studying it from different angles. Some sections sagged badly. Others were still straight, still holding their shape. That was enough. Rachel found what she could around the property. Old boards. Broken panels. Pieces of wood that had once been part of something else. They carried everything back, piece by piece. She climbed carefully onto the lower edge of the roof, testing every step before shifting her weight. The wood creaked beneath her, but didn't give. She started with the largest gaps, covered them, secured them with nails she pulled from loose planks scattered across the ground. Bent, rusted, still usable. It wasn't clean work. It wasn't permanent. But by the time she climbed down, the biggest openings were sealed. That night, the wind didn't pass straight through. It moved around them instead. And that mattered. The second problem, the inside. The floor was uneven, covered in dust and debris. Shelves broken. Furniture gone. But the structure itself still held. They cleared one room first. Not the whole house. Just one. That was the rule. Rachel swept what she could, pushed debris aside, made space. Ethan helped quietly, moving smaller pieces, stacking things without being asked. By the end of the day, they had a room. Not clean, not finished, but usable. "This is ours?" he asked. Rachel looked around, then nodded. Yeah. That night, they didn't sleep in the van. They slept inside. The air still carried dust and cold, but the walls held. And that changed everything. By the end of the first week, the house had shifted. Not visually, not in a way anyone else would notice, but in function. It held, and that meant they could stay. Food was still a problem. Her money was already running low, so she stretched it, bought only what she needed, made fewer trips. But she knew that wouldn't last, so she adapted. The land around the farmstead wasn't empty. It just needed attention. She cleared small sections, tested the soil, found patches that still held life beneath the overgrowth. Ethan watched closely. "Are we going to grow food?" he asked. "Eventually," she said. "For now, we use what we can." They found small things. Edible plants along the edges. Leftover growth that hadn't fully died out. It wasn't much, but it was something. By the second week, the house started to feel different. Not like something they found, like something they were building. Rachel reinforced more of the structure. Stronger boards. Better placement. She fixed the door properly. Made it close. Made it stay closed. Ethan organized what they had inside. Created small sections. Sleeping. Food. Storage. It still looked rough, but it felt controlled. "It doesn't feel like the van anymore," he said one night. Rachel glanced around. "No," she said. "It doesn't." By the second month, she returned to the wall. The one that felt different. She hadn't forgotten it. She had just waited. Now, she was ready. Rachel stood in front of it, running her hand along the surface again. Same feeling. Solid. But not quite right. "Mom," Ethan said from behind her. "I think there's something here," she replied. He stepped closer. Like what? I don't know yet. She found a tool. An old crowbar buried near the barn. Rusty, but strong. She pressed it against the wall. Applied pressure. The wood resisted. Then, shifted. A faint crack echoed through the room. Ethan stepped back slightly. Rachel kept going. Slow. Controlled. The panel gave way. Just enough. She pulled it free. And behind it. Space. A hollow section inside the wall. Her breath slowed. Not from fear. From focus. She reached inside. Pulled something out. A small box. Wooden. Old. She set it down carefully. Opened it. Inside. Bundles. Wrapped. Tied. She unwrapped one. Paused. Money. Old bills. Stacked. Carefully preserved. Ethan stared. Mom. She checked another bundle. The same. And another. More. Her hands trembled slightly as she sat back. The house around them stayed silent. Unchanged. But everything had shifted. This wasn't luck. This was something hidden. Forgotten. Left behind. And now. Found. Rachel closed the box slowly. Not rushing. Not reacting. Just understanding. Then she looked at Ethan. We don't rush this, she said. He nodded. They didn't leave. Didn't run to spend it. That wasn't how they got here. They used it the same way they used everything else. Carefully. Rachel reinforced the house properly. Replaced damaged beams. Secured the roof. She fixed more rooms. Expanded slowly. Made it stable. Made it last. Then, she built something more. A small setup near the front. Basic supplies. Food. Water. Simple. Reliable. People noticed. Not at first. But slowly. This place open. Yes. They stopped. Bought small things. Left. The farmstead. Once ignored. Now had purpose. By the third month. It was stable. The money. Still mostly untouched. Used only where needed. The rest. Saved. By the fourth month. The place didn't look abandoned anymore. It looked intentional. Alive. And then, a car pulled in. Clean. Polished. A man stepped out. Well-dressed. Out of place. He looked at the farmstead for a long moment. Then walked up. You own this? He asked. Rachel nodded. He glanced around. You've done a lot with it. She didn't respond. Just waited. He continued. This land, it has potential. Rachel looked at him. I'm not selling it. He smiled slightly. I'm not asking you to. A pause. I'm asking if you'd consider building more. Not taking. Building. Together. Rachel looked back at the house. The walls. The work. Everything she had rebuilt. Then at Ethan. Then back at the man. We can talk, she said. Because this time, she wasn't trying to survive. She was deciding what came next. And that was worth more than anything hidden inside those walls. And for the first time, the future didn't feel uncertain. It felt open.